May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Draw nigh unto God, and he will draw nigh unto you. That was the text on the chancel arch through which I used to process with the choir every Sunday till I was 17. You can draw nigh unto God in many ways, we know that, but for me, as a chorister, as for so many before and since, there's no better way than singing. He who sings prays twice, said St. Augustine. And that's certainly how it feels when you're worshipping in a full cathedral. And neuroscientists tell you your brain will light up like a Christmas tree while you're doing it. No other activity so fully engages your brain, your body, and your mind at all the same time. But it's not just that. In today's reading from the prophecy of Zephaniah, we hear of God bringing his people back from all over the world where they've been sent into exile. They're brought back home, and God sings over them as on a day of great festival. Sings over them as on a day of great festival. God singing over his people, God and man coming together, drawing nigh to each other in worship. What more compelling picture could you ask for? Why do we sing? You'd do well to ask the robin on the spade in your garden. He sings to defend his territory. He sings to find a mate. He sings because he can do no other. But above all, he's proclaiming with every fibre in his body, with every breath he takes, here I am. This is me. A robin in the prime of his life, ready to take you all on. It's his identity. And I believe it's the same for us. We have our territory, we stand our ground. We have an identity, we proclaim that to the world. Seeking a mate, well, we can talk about that another time when the text is the Song of Songs. When the organ strikes up in a cathedral and they start to sing one of the big hymns, then indeed how can we do anything other than join in? It's part of our identity as humans that we do so. It's part of our identity as Christians that we sing the Lord's song when we can. Singing came before speech, we're told. Anyone who says they can't sing, just ask for half an hour with me after the service and you'll be amazed. Song was important to the Israelites in exile. By the rivers of Babylon we sat down and wept when we remembered thee, O Zion. That song was on the lips of slaves in America. It became a rallying cry. And you'll remember the sound of Bob Marley and the Wailers making it their own. There's nothing like song for asserting who you are, where you're from, and the place to which you hope at last you'll return. But you can never go back, they say. I'm from Devon, and those lines of A.E. Houseman resonate with me. Yon far country, those blue remembered hills. That's how it feels when I'm on the Cornish Riviera pulling out of Exeter Station. But after a week or two on Dartmoor, I'm ready to come back and get on with life. You can't return to the land of lost content. The Israelites found that out, although quite a few of them did follow the prophets and priests who led them back to their promised land. The majority of them chose to stay on. They'd made a new life for themselves in their 50 or 60 years in Babylon. It was the beginning of their diaspora, their spreading over the world. Life in Palestine, that small backwater wedged between two warring superpowers, that life would never give them security or satisfaction. Next year in Jerusalem, the Jews still say to each other at their family celebrations, next year in Jerusalem. but they know that's not going to happen. Those happy highways to which they cannot come again, which they won't see this side of the grave, if then. It was the same for some of the freed slaves in America who were offered the opportunity to be rehoused in Liberia or Sierra Leone. They'd moved on. They hadn't been dealt a good hand, but perhaps chances were better in the familiar places they'd known, in which now they possibly had the opportunity to make something of their freedom. It's universal, this feeling of a need to return, the conviction that you'll only find completeness in some place of comfort and security that you've left behind. The feeling is there, even if you know that you can't actually yield to it. Early on, Christians had the idea of placing this somewhere you'd go when you died. But you don't get that from Jesus. For him it was amongst the earthly realities that you find your peace, joy, and prosperity. If only you knew how. Don't take the easy way out and take refuge in the afterlife. The truth of the matter, which we all know, but which we resist without quite knowing why, the truth is that it's only by being still and connecting with our essence, the ground of our being, the depths within. It's only if we do that that we'll ever find the place from whence we came. Only within ourselves can we find the authentic comfort and perfect peace that we crave. It's here, within our own church of St. Mary's, it's here that we're best placed to find that. And it's not a solitary thing, it's when we form a quiet community that can come together to be one. As the hymn puts it, one in hatred of all wrong, one in our love of all things sweet and fair, one with the joy that breaketh into song, one with the grief that trembles into prayer, one in the power that makes thy children free to follow truth and thus to follow thee. Our church is the place where we come together to learn that, to be the people who do that. The church is its people, but it's also a building whose ancient stones have their own power to heal, to teach, to unify. It's in our church building that we draw nigh to God, that he draws nigh to us. It's in St. Mary's that God sings over us and we sing with him. If I have a high view of singing, as I do, it's because we have it on good authority that God loves it, that we do. Come the day, we shall flourish again in song.